What is this UFC?
Yeah,
260?
UFC 7?
7. I thought they were.
No, 66. It's 66.
I don't understand the order they go in.
They go one at a time. So after this one, it'll be 67 and then
No.
68.
That's fake news.
What's going on, everybody? Josh Engelman and Ben Razza here for Awesemo.com, and we are back with the breakfast menu served up by BetMGM. You can turn big plays into paydays, and we have the offer for you if you're a new BetMGM user. If you deposit at least $10 into BetMGM using the link in the description of this video, you will get 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That covers everything, every sport, daily fantasy, season long, betting, all of it. Everything we've got, you get it for 3 months. And you get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000 upon deposit. Terms and conditions apply. Now hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live, because I can't even talk, because we're talking UFC 266.
I know you're excited. You're a UFC guy. You kind of got me into UFC. You and the pandemic, I have to thank for this. It's a sport that I never was really into. Been betting it a lot over the last couple years, and it is interesting. I like the styles. I like the breakdowns of you're trying to pick winners, but you also have the luxury of trying to do what I always say is a showdown mentality for the NFL fans out there, trying to pick the method, tell the story of how's the fight going to go. Is that going to be a knockout? Is it going to be quick? It's going to be more of decision based. So that's what we're going to do here. Got some big names on this card, but this is your domain. We're letting you lead off and set the tone.
All right, this one's going to be one strip of bacon. I love this bet. At least I love this fighter in this specific spot. Ben, I want to ask you something quickly before I say who I'm taking. What were you doing on October 29th of 2011, if you had to guess? What was going on in 2011 for good old Ben?
October 29th of 2011?
Yeah. A long time ago, obviously.
Yeah, I had just graduated college, and I was probably watching some type of college football event around Halloween. Actually, I was doing something with Halloween for sure. That's
okay.
Right.
That was the last time that Nick Diaz won a fight. That was against BJ Penn, October 29th, 2011, just about 10 years ago. So Robbie Lawler by decision at plus 260 is where I'm looking. I don't really see why this fight should be competitive. Diaz has a loss to Condit since that win, a loss to GSP, and a loss to Silva, and then just hasn't been around for 6 years. Why should we expect this fight to be competitive? At the time of Nick Diaz's last fight, Robbie Lawler was the welterweight champion of the world. He has not looked great in his past few fights. He got dominated by Neil Magny. He got dominated by Colby Covington. He got dominated by Rafael Dos Anjos. But I'm not surprised by that. If Nick Diaz fought those guys, he would have been a significant underdog in every one of those fights. I don't see a scenario where he wins. I don't really like the idea of going to Nick Diaz at all. He's 38 years old now. All he's talking about in his interviews is basically like how he doesn't want to fight at all. They moved this fight up to 185 pounds for reasons undetermined. There are rumors that Nick Diaz got knocked out in training. I don't know how true that's going to be. I just don't know if he can get finished either. So I love the idea of going to Robbie Lawler by decision plus 260. This fight could be fun, but I think it's going to be a little bit sadder than I really want to watch. I think it's just sort of ends up being potentially a boring decision, and I just want to take my money and run.
So I was listening, but you also had me kind of thinking, where was I 10 years ago? So where has this guy been for the last 6 years?
Kicking it, hanging out, not fighting. He doesn't. I mean, he trains a lot just in general, or at least he used to. He got a little loose with it a couple times throughout these past couple years, but he's always training for like triathlons, and he's swam from Alcatraz to, back to land. So like he's a bit of an odd duck in that regard, but that's not something that I'm worried. Like even if he didn't train, Nick Diaz is down to scrap for 25 minutes. Like that will never be a worry to me. He's not going to like gas and get out of there. Mm-hmm. He's just going to be like boring about it.
Fair enough. Interesting. Yeah, you're going to the Wayback Machine with that, so I have no problem with that. Interesting story on that guy. Someone clearly, if you haven't fought in the last couple of years, probably haven't seen you live. I'm going to the big fight. I'm taking a shot here. I'm going with Volkanovski. I'm going by decision. I think that's going to be a pretty popular choice, but you're still getting plus money, plus 135 out there. And this is what I was talking about with telling the story. I kind of reversed engineered it. Okay, so it looks like Ortega is much more likely if it finishes. I think it probably goes to him. It seems like he'll be the aggressor. When you look at Volkanovski, 6 of his last 8 have gone to decision. He obviously just has the lone loss way back, so he's able to control these fights, kind of dictate the pace. Looking at our tools, which I always lean on for UFC, it doesn't look like this is going to be a crazy pace over 5 rounds. It should just be a normal fight. I don't see anything outrageous. I do think Ortega will be the primary aggressor, but Volkanovski, I do think is going to win the fight, obviously. And if he does it, I don't see a huge likelihood that it's inside the distance. So when I'm moving someone minus 175, which is his number, just to win the fight, all the way to plus 135 on the method that I think is most likely, because this fight is minus 130 to go to decision in general, to go the distance. So I feel pretty comfortable with that. I want to ask you about this fight. It's very competitive, obviously. It's not a super lopsided, and there is a lopsided fight that we're going to talk about in a second, but I'm leaning Volkanovski to win one strip of bacon by decision. Get a little plus money. I'm comfortable with that.
I like it a lot. That's the same thing that I would be looking at for this fight. I don't like to do MMA math all that frequently, but Volkanovski went 2 big-time fights against Max Holloway. Fantastic. Very. Yeah, they were either way. Those fights went a lot differently than the Max Holloway Brian Ortega fight. Max Holloway beat the brakes off of Brian Ortega and really just messed him up in a bad way. Ortega was out for a bit after that. Really had to he scrambled him a little. It looked great coming back, but at the same time, I think Volkanovski is just an extra step ahead of Ortega. So I really like going by decision. I'd be surprised to see a finish in this fight.
Yeah, that was my method. Like I said, I try to do that. And then if you get to decision, kind of live with that result, plus money. Yeah. But what I was saying before we duck on out of here, I do want to ask you, because this is a pretty good card. There is one massive favorite. You've got Valentina Shevchenko fighting again. She's just an unstoppable rebel force. I'm not going to ask you to lay 160 strips of bacon, just kill a full pig on the show. Don't do anything like that. But is there something you can do with that fight against Lauren Murphy? Do you see any methods, or do you just say, you know what, just let it go?
I mean, I know you and I talked about it, not on this show, about just sort of like adding her to some other bets for the weekend, just outright, basically get a bet that's VIG free, which I think is a very interesting thing to do. But if you really want to just get actual action down on this fight, I think Shevchenko by inside the distance is a decent bet. I mean, she's a monster favorite, but you can get her inside the distance around like minus 170, minus 175. She's arguably the best woman fighter on the planet. She lost 2 fights to Amanda Nunes. I think she won one of those fights. I'd like to see them fight again. But those 2 women are on a completely different planet. I think that Valentina Shevchenko just runs through Lauren Murphy. Now, Lauren Murphy is tough. I'm not like super confident that she doesn't just take like a 25-minute beating and look really, really rough on the way out. But I think Shevchenko just finishes her. No matter where she goes, if she's on the feet, she's going to box her up, and it's going to be pretty brutal. But in her last fight, we saw her use her wrestling and drag it to the mat and destroy a girl that way. So it's going to happen one way or the other. I think she gets her out of there inside the 25 minutes.
I like it. I may look to attach some exposure to that for some of my bets. So there you have it. You've got two good bets, one kind of bonus one if you want to get a little aggressive with big fights. Great card this week. Enjoy it on the way out. Hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate it. Good luck, everyone. We'll be back Monday with more Breakfast Menu.
Thanks, BetMGM.